If you're still recovering from last Sunday's knockout, then you're not alone. Going into this fight, everyone was expecting the Nigerian Nightmare to defend his title for the 6th time, but well, Leon Edwards had something special up his sleeve as he stunned the whole world with a 5th round KO. In this video, we'll be looking at the build-up, the actual fight itself, and what will be next for the two fighters. So, let's get started. Let's start by looking at the build-up for the fight. The two fighters last faced each other in 2015 when they were still relatively unknown to the UFC world. The match was an easy win for the Nigerian Nightmare as he won by unanimous decision, and since then, he's been on a roll. He had one of the longest winning streaks of 15 UFC matches, which would have tied with the all-time highest of Anderson Silva had he won against Edwards. On the way, Usman also became the welterweight champion by beating Tyrone Woodley in 2019 and has defended the title 5 times after that, but just couldn't do it against Birmingham's finest. As for Edwards, well, he took the loss to Usman in 2015 personally and hasn't lost a match since then. He completely changed his style. Well, both fighters did, but the Jamaican-born was just on a whole other level. Racking up a 10-match win streak before going into this fight, he had all the intentions of writing his comeback story, as he said in an interview that it was his destiny to win this time. Still, there was a lot of mutual respect between the two. Both had a long journey filled with wins, and 7 years later, the now matured fighters gave it their all. Usman, however, did reveal before the fight that he wasn't looking forward to it. Having the pressure of defending his title 5 times had got to him. The former champ said that he'd been awake, meaning he had been barely getting sleep, and Edwards' comments on how it was his destiny to win the match kinda struck a nerve for Usman, who now had a lot on his shoulders. Next, let's go over the fight. 7 years in the making, held at Salt Lake City in Atlanta, we were all in for a treat. Almost 20,000 viewers had shown up to the arena, and they got their money's worth. The challenger started off the fight well into the first round, getting a takedown on Usman, which was something that had never been done before. However, after that, the Nigerian Nightmare dominated the match. Using his grappling and his clinch skills, Usman, as expected, was looking like the favorite to win. Oh, and we can't forget those beautiful strikes to the body that had the defending champ enter the final round with a 39-37 advantage on the judges' cards. Usman continued to dominate the last round as well, and it wasn't until there were 4 minutes and 4 seconds into the round that the whole world got rocked. Everyone, the fans, Usman, the judges, commentators, and even Edwards himself probably knew the Nightmare was gonna win. But with only 1 minute left in the round, the Brit faked a left jab, causing Usman to duck, and then boom, a right kick to the jaw, and the whole arena lost its mind. The now former champion fell straight into the canvas, and the match immediately ended. It was as if Edwards had been given an adrenaline shot because the new champ was jumping around in the octagon while the Nigerian Nightmare just lay there, eyes wide open, mouth gaping, thinking of what on earth had just happened. Now, what were the reactions? In the post-match interview, Leon called out all those who doubted him and told them to look at him now. The Brit also said that he knows that it was one of the worst performances, but it didn't matter to him because he had just beaten the best pound-for-pound fighter. His win made him the first Jamaican-born fighter and the second Brit to have a UFC title. Usman couldn't address the media because he was rushed to the hospital after the fight, but he later tweeted that champs can mess up sometimes and he'll be back for vengeance. Are we in for a trilogy? Well, we'll get into that later. Dana White also expressed how shocked he was about the win and said that this is exactly what makes MMA one of the greatest sports in the world and why people love it. Anything can happen. It doesn't matter if you've been dominating the game for 5 rounds, 1 kick, and it's all over. As for the internet's reaction, well, they kind of lost their minds. Twitter had a similar shocked reaction, and people were quick to meme the footage of Usman lying on the canvas. Jake Paul took it a step further by posting the image on his Instagram story and added a pacifier to the former champ's mouth while Twinkle Twinkle Little Star was playing in the background. That's a lot of smack coming from a guy who's avoided every professional fight in his so-called boxing career. Moving on, what's next for the fighters? The answer to the earlier question is yes. According to Dana White, a trilogy seems inevitable. Both have won against each other once, and fans would love a third and final match to decide the winner. But that might be a bit later down the road because it seems like the new champ's first title defense will be against Khamzat Chimaev if he wins against Nate Diaz at UFC 279. fine. Usman, on the other hand, will probably be back at training in no time, as he now has to prove himself again if he wants a shot at the title. But who knows? We've just seen how unpredictable the sport is, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens. In other news, first up, Drake loses huge amounts of money at UFC 278. It seems like the Drake curse continues, as the Canadian rapper lost $500,000. What's the Drake curse? Well, in recent years, whatever team or player Drake supported ended up losing their match, and UFC 278 was no exception. At the event, he first bet $270,000 on Jose Aldo in his return match against Merab Dvalishvili, and then later, he took his chances on the title fight between Usman and Edwards. And well, we all know the results now, and it seems like gambling isn't Mr. Toronto's list of talents. Oh, and like the previous curses, fans raided the internet with memes mocking the rapper and his bad luck. This also wasn't the first time that the Drake curse struck in the UFC. In the lightweight title match between McGregor and Khabib, Dreezy openly backed the Irishman and even showed up to the weigh-in, repping the flag of Ireland. And, well, we know what happened after that. Other examples include Anthony Joshua's first match against Andy Ruiz Jr., but we can't blame him for that because, well, no one expected that at all. And maybe it was only because of the curse that AJ lost, since in the rematch, Drake was nowhere to be seen and it ended up as a comfortable win for the Brit. Next, Justin Gaethje gives his predictions for the UFC 280 main event. Gaethje was there for UFC 278 and was asked on who he thinks will win between Islam Makhachev and Charles Oliveira. The lightweight fighter said that although it's hard to predict who will win, he knows for a fact that it won't be one-sided. Many have speculated that Islam, who's under the coaching of Khabib, will dominate the fight against Charles by tiring him out and going for submission. Based on his last match encounter with Charles, Justin said that it won't be so easy for the Russian because Charles isn't likely to get tired from a bit of grappling. He himself lost to the Brazilian, so that might be influencing his opinion. Gaethje then went on to say that he'll regret not being there in Abu Dhabi for the match because we'll be in for a treat, and well, we couldn't agree more. However, before moving on to the next question, the American said that it's likely that Islam might get the submission, but to him, it's all a matter of chance and luck. Guess the only way of finding out will be to tune in on the 22nd of October. And finally, Dana White reveals that he brokered a deal for Tom Brady. No, there isn't a typo there. The UFC president almost made one of the biggest deals in the history of the NFL. In 2019, Brady and Rob Gronkowski had just won the Super Bowl with the New England Patriots and were looking for a way out. At the time, the Buccaneers weren't even in the conversation, and instead, Dana White had linked both players to the Las Vegas Raiders in what was almost a done deal. Then what stopped it? According to Dana, the head coach stopped the deal during the free agency period because he simply didn't want them. Though Gronks wasn't that keen on the move, the then six-time champion Brady had started looking for houses. Yep, that's how close the transfer got. Dana had kept a tight lip on this until recently in an interview before UFC 278. The linked player brought the subject up. The UFC president said that he had no intentions of telling the story and only told it because Gronkowski asked about it. What a move that would have been, given that Brady went on to win the championship with the Buccaneers in the next year. Could he have done it with the Raiders? Guess we'll never know. And that's a wrap for this video. What was your reaction to the brutal knockout? Let us know in the comments below, and make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos just like this. We'll see you in the next one.